Record-breaking extreme rainfall exceeding 800 millimeters has triggered catastrophic flash floods and a deadly landslide in the coastal city of Geoje, South Gyeongsang Province, South Korea, leaving one dead, devastating critical infrastructure, and forcing massive emergency evacuations. The disaster was fueled by an extraordinarily intense meteorological phenomenon that stalled over the southeastern tip of the Korean peninsula. While heavy downpours initially began on Saturday evening, the weather conditions deteriorated into a life-threatening crisis between Sunday night, August 16th, and Monday morning, August 17th. According to official data released by the Korea Meteorological Administration, KMA, accumulated precipitation in Geoje reached an astonishing 805.7 millimeters between Saturday and Monday morning at 8 a.m. KST. This massive volume of water approached nearly a meter, smashing all local weather records since the establishment of modern automated weather observation systems in the region in 1972. At the absolute peak of the storm during the early hours of Monday, Geoje experienced a torrential downpour intensity of 124.5 millimeters per hour. Meteorologists classified this hourly rainfall rate as an extreme weather anomaly expected to occur only once every 200 years. Simultaneously, the neighboring coastal city of Tongyeong registered an equally historic cumulative rainfall of 671.9 millimeters. The KMA explained that the disaster resulted from a perfect storm of environmental factors. The remnants of a tropical depression moving from the south collided with a highly warm, hyper-moist southern maritime air mass, forming a narrow but incredibly dense atmospheric corridor of rain clouds. When this moisture-laden air struck the mountainous topography of Geoje Island, intense orographic lifting forced the clouds upward rapidly, squeezing out immense amounts of water like a meteorological bomb. The situation became catastrophic because the flash flooding coincided directly with the ocean's high tide cycle. The elevated sea level effectively blocked the swollen local rivers and drainage networks from emptying into the ocean, forcing floodwaters to surge inland instantly into low-lying urban areas. The most tragic consequence of this extreme weather event took place in the pre-dawn hours of Monday at approximately 4:30 KST, when a massive landslide tore through a heavily saturated hillside in Ukpodong, Geoje. Millions of cubic meters of mud, boulders, and uprooted trees gave way under the weight of the water, cascading down a steep slope and violently smashing into a residential apartment complex below. A thick wall of rushing mud breached the structural windows and completely buried the first and second floors of apartment building 104. Emergency rescue teams from the Geoje Fire Department were immediately dispatched to the scene after receiving frantic distress calls. Utilizing heavy excavation machinery and thermal imaging equipment, firefighters successfully pulled 3 trapped residents out from the mud-caked ruins on the ground floor. Tragically, a young man in his 20s was discovered buried deep within his ruined apartment unit in a state of cardiac arrest. Paramedics rushed him to a nearby municipal hospital while performing continuous CPR, but he was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. The 2 other rescued apartment residents sustained severe trauma, including multiple bone fractures, and remain hospitalized under intensive care. In a separate incident, another landslide hit an independent residential home in a nearby neighborhood. While that building suffered catastrophic physical damage to its outer supporting walls, no casualties were reported because the family had heeded earlier government text alerts and evacuated to a shelter just hours before the hillside collapsed. Beyond the landslides, structural failures of local drainage channels and overflowing rivers triggered widespread flash flooding across multiple urban sectors. The neighborhoods of Jangpyeongdong and Seoldong emerged as some of the hardest-hit zones. Dramatic video footage captured by local residents and municipal traffic cameras, distributed by Reuters, showed major city boulevards completely transformed into raging, mud-colored rivers. Hundreds of sedans, SUVs, and commercial delivery trucks were submerged up to their hoods, with several smaller vehicles drifting helplessly down streets swept by rapid, violent currents. The city's primary waterways, including the Gyeoje Stream and the Seolcheon River, overflowed their banks entirely. This forced municipal authorities to impose a total lockdown on all pedestrian walkways and vehicle traffic across these bridges, starting at 2:44 KST, to prevent further loss of life. Dozens of citizens living near the riverbanks found themselves trapped on the upper floors of their homes as the ground levels filled with water. Emergency personnel deployed inflatables and specialized rubber rescue boats to navigate the submerged streets and extract isolated residents. Anticipating that the scale of the disaster would quickly overwhelm standard municipal resources, the Geoje city government broadcast an urgent, high-volume national emergency disaster alert to all mobile phones in the district at 2:10 KST on Monday. The message mandated immediate evacuation for all individuals living near steep mountain slopes, known landslide-prone zones, and along river containment walls. At 2:42 KST, public safety officials issued a highly critical warning, stating that the Mundong Reservoir was in imminent danger of overflowing. Low-lying communities located downstream were ordered to abandon their possessions immediately and run toward designated high-ground zones. According to official data compiled by the Ministry of the Interior and Safety, a total of 132 individuals from 97 households were displaced across South Gyeongsang Province. Within Geoje alone, 82 residents from 64 households were relocated to temporary disaster relief shelters set up inside indoor sports complexes, community centers, and local schools situated safely clear of floodplains. In response to the intensifying crisis, the Central Ministry of the Interior activated a Level 1 emergency response via the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasures Headquarters. On the local front, the Geoje Fire Department elevated its internal operational status to Level 2 Siaga, authorizing the mobilization of 100% of available personnel, rescue fleets, and heavy-duty water pumping equipment to critical urban failure points. The immediate economic impact of the storm severely disrupted Geoje's primary industrial sector, which serves as one of the largest and most critical shipbuilding hubs on Earth. The world's two maritime manufacturing titans, Hanwha Ocean and Samsung Heavy Industries, were forced to suspend large portions of their shipyard operations and manufacturing lines. The executive management of Hanwha Ocean issued an official press release stating, "The complete closure of primary transport arteries due to widespread flooding and landslides surrounding our facility has completely choked worker mobility and raw material logistics, necessitating a temporary halt to our core shipyard operations." Meanwhile, Samsung Heavy Industries instructed its weekend and overnight shifts to remain sheltered at home or stay on standby at secure indoor locations, completely banning non-essential road travel to prevent traffic accidents during the height of the storm. All municipal bus lines and intercity bus routes operating out of the Geoje terminal were completely canceled after major highways and connecting bridges were buried under thick deposits of mud and debris. Authorities blocked public access to at least 204 locations, including subways, low-lying underpasses, seal-wall bridges, and mountain hiking trails. At least 12 schools and public daycares across Geoje and Tongyang reported structural flooding damage, prompting regional education boards to cancel all physical classes and pivot to temporary emergency closures. The municipal government suspended routine residential garbage collection services and shuttered all nature reserves, public parks, and beaches across Geoje Island to strongly discourage citizens from stepping outdoors. As of Tuesday, the primary rain belt has largely moved away from the southern coast of the Korean peninsula toward the northeast, leaving behind overcast skies and intermittent light drizzle across South Gyeongsang Province. Floodwaters in most parts of downtown Geoje have begun to recede gradually as the ocean's tide levels return to normal parameters. The operational focus of emergency services has shifted from active rescue to mud clearance, restoring downed power grids, and conducting structural integrity inspections. On Tuesday morning, the Geoje municipal government appointed an independent private engineering firm to conduct a rigorous 90-minute emergency safety inspection on the hillside directly behind the Okpo-dong apartment complex that suffered the fatal landslide. A panel of 5 veteran geotechnical experts concluded that the main concrete retaining wall protecting the apartment complex remains structurally intact and stable. The immediate risk of a secondary large-scale landslide at that precise location was officially categorized as low. Based on the technical clearance provided by the engineering panel, municipal authorities are currently drawing up plans to allow evacuated residents of adjacent apartment blocks, excluding the severely damaged Building 104, to return to their homes. Prime Minister Han Song-suk, working alongside Minister of the Interior Yoon Ho-jung, emphasized that the central government will expedite the release of special emergency financial reserves to accelerate the reconstruction of Geoje's ruined infrastructure. Immediate priorities include rebuilding the logistical supply chains feeding into the shipyards, repairing flood-damaged school facilities, and distributing targeted financial, logistics, and psychological counseling support to elderly evacuees and vulnerable groups currently housed in temporary public shelters.
안녕하세요. 반갑습니다. 아유, 여기 심각하네요. 제가 이거 촬영 조금 할게요.